Hi, this is David James, and today I will be going over Chapter 27 in the Sports Psychologist Handbook over Psychology and Bodybuilding. First, I will answer the question, what is bodybuilding? For those of you that may not know, bodybuilding is a solo sport that is extremely unique. It is a sport that requires a great deal of discipline when it comes to nutrition and exercise. But for a bodybuilder, it is not your average diet and exercise routine. Bodybuilders very carefully plan out every single meal they eat for many weeks at a time. And on top of that, they try to symmetrically build each individual muscle in their body using almost any means necessary. And by this I mean performance-enhancing drugs, such as human growth hormone and steroids. They put all of these things together to build as much muscle mass as they can while burning as much body fat as they can through the weeks leading up to one single competition. In this competition, they will go through posing routines and try to impress judges to win the competition. Once this competition is over, the competitors begin training for the next competition they are planning on competing in. For most bodybuilders, this is a crazy cycle that goes for almost 365 days a year. In the images, you will see Ronnie Coleman, an 8-time Mr. Olympia, at around 300 pounds with only 3% body fat. Key psychological issues in bodybuilding. Many people who are not very knowledgeable in the sport of bodybuilding may think that all bodybuilders have to worry about is eating healthy and working out a lot. However, this is not true, and although diet and exercise is a majority of what they do, there are quite a few stress factors that come into play. This is where bodybuilding meets psychology, and we see the psychological issues that bodybuilders have to deal with. The bodybuilding lifestyle itself can be extremely stressful. They perform rigorous training routines, sometimes 2 times a day. They have to count every single gram of protein, every carbohydrate, and every gram of fat that they put into their bodies, and cannot just go out and grab a burger when they see fit, like the rest of us can. Some bodybuilders have very little time to spend with a significant other or their children, and these things can place great mental stress on a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders have such routine daily activities and train so much that many of them overtrain and burn themselves out. Overtraining and burnout are very common in bodybuilding today, and when an athlete starts to overtrain and burn out, they begin to place immense stress on their body and mind. Many bodybuilders are so deeply engaged in what they are doing that sometimes they do not realize that they are overtraining until they become injured from it. At this point, the life of a bodybuilder gets turned upside down because they can no longer do what they usually do every day, and all of the work that they had previously put in is gone. On top of all the stressors I've gone over, now we have to add the stress of competition itself. In preparation for a competition, bodybuilders use their off-season to pack on as much muscle mass as they can, but with this they can also add body fat. Once they enter the preparation phase, they have to shed this body fat while trying to maintain the muscle mass that they have gained. To do this, they must endure a very, very strict diet that can add on even more stress, and as the competition nears, some bodybuilders go as far as limiting their diet to as low as only 800 calories a day. This dramatic drop in caloric intake can cause moods of depression and irritability. The few weeks before competition can cause severe mental health issues and are by far the most stressful. This is where sports psychologists could be very helpful and could even help a bodybuilder gain a positive mindset through all of the stress. In the pictures you will see about 1 week's worth of meal preps that a bodybuilder would have to use for consecutive weeks in a row. Next you see a man that looks to be in pain or could be overtraining or burned out. And then in the bottom you will see a picture of 4 bodybuilders in a pose-off during competition. Imagery. A large part of the chapter covering psychology and bodybuilding is about the use of imagery. Many people believe that imagery is solely visualization, when it is actually more than that. To effectively use imagery, a person needs to incorporate all of their senses. According to the Sport and Exercise Psychology Review in 2015, mental imagery is a multisensory experiment. Studies have shown that strategy imagery can enhance the learning of motor skills, can control anxiety levels, and improve the interpretation of symptoms contributing to competition anxiety. As you can see, imagery could be a very useful tool in the psychology of bodybuilding with all of the stress that comes forth in the sport. Imagery could help a lot if used correctly. According to our text, there is another way to describe imagery, and it is with the acronym PETLEP. This stands for Physical, Environment, Task, Timing, Learning, Emotion, and Perspective. The physical aspect of imagery means that when using mental imagery, the athlete should try to imagine the muscle fatigue and discomfort they feel when they are actually training. They are encouraged to do this also while exercising. Next is the environment. When using mental imagery, it is important to imagine performing the task in the environment it is usually performed in. To help aid this technique, bodybuilders could listen to an audio recording of the gym that they work out in to help give the illusion that they are actually in the gym. This recording could include sounds such as music played in the gym and the clinking of weights hitting together, as well as some mild chatter from other weightlifters. In mental imagery, the attention should be focused on the same thing that a person focuses on when actually performing the task. For example, if a bodybuilder focuses on the movement of the bar when they are really performing the task, they should then point their focus toward that same thing when the mental imagery pertains to the task of the element of imagery. Timing is another key point in this depiction of mental imagery. The preparation and execution of a task should be imagined in real time rather than in slow motion. If a bodybuilder is imagining a set of squat, they should entirely imagine the full rep of every rep in a single set. The same should be used for rest time. All of the tasks performed by an athlete are learned, and it should work out the same way with mental imagery. For example, if a bodybuilder performs a heavy lunge exercise, the movement may be awkward at first, but the balance and movement are gradually learned over time. And this is another aspect that should be included when mental imagery is being used. The emotions a bodybuilder feels, both psychologically and physiologically, after a workout are key in making progress. The same feelings of euphoria should be felt after a good session of imagery. Imagery can be used both in first person and in third person. Our text states that it would be best to choose one way or the other, and to keep using it. For example, it may be helpful for one person to imagine themselves from a distance working out, and for another, it may be helpful for them to actually see themselves working out from their own point of view. In conclusion, we now see that bodybuilding is not just a sport of physical nature. There are many psychological aspects of a sport that is so physically demanding. I hope that today I have shown you the good examples of this and that you now have a better understanding of the psychology of bodybuilding.